This is the BiggerPockets podcast, show 380.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Brandon Turner, host of the BiggerPockets Real Estate Podcast, here with my favorite ex-wrestler. Did you ever wrestle in high school?
No, I was a basketball player.
Ex-basketball player David Greene. What's up, David Greene?
There was actually a rivalry between wrestlers and basketball players because the season was at the same time and we both wanted to use the gym. So that was like lightweight insulting what you just did.
Was it like the West Side Story where like you guys would go out in the street and like start snapping your fingers and like doing like
it looked more like
moves?
the Michael Jackson Beat It video where like we were kind of holding hands, but we also had a knife in the other one and we were like circling and dancing while trying to look tough.
That's usually what jocks do in high school. I remember those days. Right. I was not a jock. I was a
No, you bloomed late.
nerd.
You ended up becoming a man's man, which you guys will hear about later in today's show. Exactly how
You just
Brandon.
See, David felt emasculated. Is that the word today?
Yeah.
Because David's at
That's
home,
right.
and I talked about being on a roof today, and David.
I was at home getting a manicure and lotioning my hands while Brandon was out there living by the sweat of his brow and the cut of his jaw. Yeah, you got to listen to this episode to the end because it's very good.
That's funny. All right. Well, speaking of today's episode, we got 3 guests on today's episode who are all landlords. So we have Dave Poeppelmeier, who's a newer, or maybe not even newer is the right word, but he is a smaller landlord with a less than 10 rental units of his own. Then we have Mike Butler, who you may have read his book, Landlord and Autopilot, very good book. He manages, I think, close to 500 rental units, and he owns a whole lot of them himself. And then, of course, we have Chris Clothier, who's been on the show multiple times before. Chris is a investor, but he also runs a turnkey business that buys, renovates, and sells homes to out-of-state investors. They operate in like all over the place. And they have like 5,000 units now that they manage for their clients. So we've got the entire gamut here of landlords, and today's entire show is on how to navigate this COVID world, this world we find ourselves in today as a landlord or as a real estate investor. And even if you don't have any properties yet, we talk about a lot of just big picture of where we're headed afterwards, as a real estate investor in general. So even if you are not a landlord right now, if you're a flipper, wholesaler, a house hacker, whatever, you're going to get a lot of valuable information today out of this show. We got some really smart guys, and myself and David as well. So with that, David, let's get to today's quick tip.
All right, today's quick tip is location matters. Now, when you're looking at where to buy a rental property, there's more and more people that are starting to work from home, and the long distance investing thing is starting to pick up some traction. People are realizing I can work from home, so I can buy a property from home. Don't just look at cash flow. That's one of the siren and the old tales of sailors that are getting pulled out to sea, and like brought to their deaths. That's cash flow. It calls to you and it says, I will meet all your needs and I'm perfect. And it's a mirage. It's not always true. You need to consider location. The properties that you're buying will tend to be rented by a certain demographic of people. So one of the questions I always ask my agent every time is, what kind of people live or rent in this neighborhood? And what I'm looking for is not necessarily how much money they have, but what type of job they work in. Okay. Are these Hollywood actors? Are these construction workers? Are these firefighters? What type of person? Because certain jobs, like a firefighter, are much more recession resistant. Other jobs, like a tech worker, they can work from home when you're having a slowdown, like a virus-related thing. Because you got to think, this corona thing could happen again. There could be another outbreak, okay? This is something that we should just kind of plan for. Other industries, like someone who works in a warehouse and stands at an assembly line and stamps metal, they're not working from home. So when you're buying properties, consider that. What is the industry that your tenants are going to be working in? And are they going to continue to have an income stream if we have another shutdown like this?
All right. And that was today's not so quick tip from David Greene. Just kidding.
You got to know when you throw it to me. It's probably going to be a medium length tip.
Yeah, it's a long tip today.
That's
All right. With that, no, that was good. That was really good advice. And it is like when you say cash flow is like the siren, what Dave is not saying you shouldn't buy for cash flow or you shouldn't look at cash flow. He's saying that that's all you're looking at, because sometimes you think you're getting a good cash flowing deal, but then your tenants destroy. I mean, one of my worst deals ever looked great on paper, but like the tenants just kept destroying the house, and it was a bad neighborhood, and I couldn't attract the right tenant. And the house itself had so many just weird things about it that like my quote unquote cash flow ended up being non-existent. So, there's more to a deal than just looking at that number of what cash flow comes in. You gotta look at the entire deal. And now, without any further delay, let's get to our interview with Dave, Mike, and Chris. All right, gentlemen, welcome all to the BiggerPockets podcast. Good to have you all here.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hello.
All right. So before we get into this thing deep into the world of how this coronavirus stuff and how the social distancing is affecting landlords today and real estate investors, I wanted to take a second to have each of you introduce yourself for those who might not know you. So why don't we start with the man who's been on the podcast now? This is number 4, so you guys all know who he is. Chris Clothier. Chris, tell us about yourself real quick.
Yeah, Brandon. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I'm distancing in Hawaii, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah. All right. We'll end that. I'm good with that. I am distancing in Memphis, Tennessee right now. Yeah. So look, since the last time we were here, not a ton has changed. We're still operating. Oh wait, what am I saying? Not a ton has changed. We have been known as Memphis Invest, and we rebranded this past year to REI Nation after entering into our 7th market. So we're doing what we've always done. We're buying houses in 7 markets, having fun, renovating them. We're managing a little over 6,000 units today for single family passive investors. And other than that, I have no more kids. I stopped at 5. Okay, so that's an update. And
wow,
the company's growing. We're having fun and just kind of doing our thing. This is a challenging time, but up until this day, we just, we kind of kept doing what we do, what we've talked about so many times on here, being good at buying and selling and occupying and managing. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, I wondered when you were going to change the name because it wasn't super clear, right? Memphis Invest in Dallas. It was like, wait, is it Dallas Invest? Is it? Yeah.
I'll tell you, when we hit the halfway mark, when we had sold just as many houses in markets not named Memphis as we had Memphis, we knew we had to make a change there to kind of be more reflective of who we were. So yeah, we've been planning it for a few years and did it January 1st.
All right. Very cool. Well, and of course, if people want to hear more about Chris's story, you can go back and listen to the episodes he's been on. We'll put links in the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 379. Now let's go to Dave Poeppelmeier. I hope I'm saying that last name right, Dave. Is that correct?
Close enough.
All right, Dave. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? Where are you at in the world? What do you do in real estate?
Once again, my name is Dave Poeppelmeier. I live in Toledo, Ohio. And my wife and I, we own houses in the Toledo metro area. We started buying houses in 2013, basically straight off of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So once again, like a lot of investors, that was the big eye-opener for us. And since we had no idea what we were doing, we actually did his full system and everything, and it was great. And so just slowly but surely, we've been adding houses. We have 8 houses, and we focus mostly around the University of Toledo. So we like the student housing. My wife and I both went to University of Toledo, so we know the area, and it's cool kind of giving back per se, and the fact that we actually give students like nice houses to live in and not the cesspools that I may have not been sober in once or twice back then. And so we've so just like everybody else, we're kind of planning for the worst and hoping for the best with everything here in this market, but we're not letting it slow us down. We're still looking at acquiring more houses and actually are buying our first 4-pack of houses for the first time ever. So we're rocking and rolling still.
On the 4-pack, do you get like a buy 3 get 1 free discount?
I would love that, but no.
All right, very cool. And finally, for many of you, needs no introduction, but we'll give one anyway. Mike Butler. Mike was the author of Landlord and an Autopilot, which you've probably heard me talking about on the show before, because that book, Mike, your book, made such a massive impact on my wife Heather and I when we were getting into real estate. We got that book from the library, then we went and bought it, and then it was been underlined and highlighted, and our entire world was built off your business, your model in your book. So thank you for joining us today, Mike. Tell us a little bit about yourself and I guess how you became the Godfather.
I'm here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I started my investing while I had a full-time job. and as an undercover police detective doing murder for hire, contract killings, organized crime. I was on a bomb squad, so I love adventure. And we've got hundreds of rentals here in my hometown. I like to do it in my own backyard in one county for one legal system, one court system, and it works. It did never in a million years did I dream that I would be here on this call with you, Brandon, and all these other experts. And I grew up in a poor end of town, typical story, but oldest of 7 kids in a blue collar neighborhood. So real estate is just unbelievable. Changed my life, gave me true financial independence, and I want to help others achieve that as well.
It's awesome. Well, definitely you guys check out Mike's book. It's so good. Landlord and Autopilot. Again, like I said, so many of our systems are built off of what you taught. So very cool. It's an honor to be here today with all 3 of you guys today. So why don't we start with, we heard a little bit about what your markets are like. I'm going to actually jump in and ask Chris and start with you, because you've got, 6,000 units you're managing across 7 cities, you said?
Right.
So you got a nationwide view, or at least, somewhat nationwide view of what's going on. What are you seeing right now? We are recording this, by the way, for everyone listening. We are recording this on Monday, the 13th of April. So obviously the show comes out, I think, a week and a half after recording this. So there might be some slight changes between now and then. Forgive us for, the rapidly changing world around us. But what are you seeing right now, Chris?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the biggest change that we've seen right now has been, remarkably, it's been communication. That we're even just about on all of our numbers as far as the number of properties that have paid their full rent, the number of residents that paid rent in advance, so before the first day of the month, the number of residents that paid by the due date, which in Texas is the 3rd, and in all of our other markets was the 6th this month. All those numbers remain remarkably the same. What changed was the communication. So we had a lot of communication beforehand from our residents. We did not do any, outreach on the front end, but we decided to wait and manage case by case because everybody knew rent was due April 1st. So what we found was a lot more open outreach from residents. They kind of know that they're in a precarious situation. They're trying to communicate in advance of, hey, I lost my job, I got laid off, I got my hours cut, whatever their duress ends up being. We just have found ourselves managing this list of people that are proactively outreaching, saying, hey, this is my scenario. What can we do to kind of work together? Because nobody wants to lose their housing right now, and nobody wants to be in a scenario where they'll lose it in the future. So that's been the shocking thing to us so far, has been that rather than going and having to chase people down, we actually had a lot of people, very proactively come out and say, when I say a lot, we found it to be about 8% of our entire portfolio did some outreach on the front end. Out of that, 25% of that 8% paid full rent on time, no issues. But they just wanted to communicate that, hey, we're seeing some signs in the future we may struggle. So, it was one of these so far that the communication has been really, really upfront and very proactive, whereas we were anticipating a real struggle. So far, it hadn't been that way.
One thing that's unique about your situation, Chris, is you're in 7 different markets and you're doing a large volume. So you probably have the most accurate information from just a sample size perspective. Has your company noticed a difference in one area versus another with how tenants are acting, who's paying, who's not, or has it been pretty much uniform across the board?
See, we don't vary a lot in the price point of property. And so we may be in 7 different markets, but price point is generally the same until you get to like a Dallas and a Houston, where the properties are just more expensive, so the rents are higher. We were anticipating to kind of see the same numbers across the board. What we found is that the smaller markets, the tertiary markets, I'm not even sure that Little Rock would be a tertiary market. That would be I don't know what the number is for like a 4th level market, but or what the name is, but like a Little Rock and a Tulsa and Oklahoma City, we found these markets paid almost 100% in full on time. We had very little disruption in those markets, whereas Memphis, we've got the most properties in Memphis, and then Dallas and Houston, we saw, just a little higher level of disruption in those markets. So if we've seen a variation in collections and that kind of stuff, it's been in those markets. They're carrying probably the biggest load of no pays or slow pays, or those that are in complete duress, lost their job and struggling. But we haven't seen it by price point because we just don't manage enough varying price points. So
now, did you proactively reach out to your tenant pool and talk to them, or did you wait for them to call you? How did you guys handle that?
no, we debated amongst our executive team a lot. I was very pushing for us to get something out like back around March 20th. I wanted to be way out in front. And, but I give my dad a lot of credit because he's the one who took everybody's, opinions, including mine. I was pretty forceful and, just said no, just said that, he justified it by saying, I don't want to have to communicate with our residents over and over and over again as things change. He's like, what we're going to do is we're going to have a plan on dealing with those that are having trouble. And then we also had a plan for each step of the way, on times, when you're late, when you're, whether you're making a plan or not making a plan, whatever. So rather than try and I'll give you a great example of this. We decided one of our options was, let's go to all of our residents and give them a price break right off the bat and tell them that if you pay on time, you get a price break. And that's not being very responsible with our owners' money, because that's their money. And we reckoned that our rationale was that a majority of our residents would be able to pay on time. They weren't going to be in duress. And we were right. Here we are today. We've collected roughly 90% of the rent that has been billed. And by the day it was late, we were over 70%. So if we had given discounts in advance to get people to pay on time, we would have gotten the same amount of money, or the same number of units would have paid their rent. They just all would have paid a lot less. And that would have taken money out of the owner's pocket. So we said, let's manage the exceptions rather than the rule. Let's not go out to everybody. Let's let this play out the way it's going to play out. And then we will work with residents on a one-on-one basis rather than try and manage this whole big pool with one policy.
That was one of the points I made early on. I made a video on BiggerPockets that got a lot of views early on was, we're sending this letter out to tenants. And before the letter one came out, I made another video that said like the most important thing you can do is have a plan in place that you know what you're going to do. And now we in-house in our company said, okay, this is what's going to happen if tenants don't pay rent. But the distinction is there's what if tenants can't pay rent? And I say that in quotation marks. They can't pay rent because they call, if you give them the option of not paying rent, most of them will not pay rent, right? So This is not, but we internally, and I'm sure you do well, I'm sure all you guys do, is what if they don't pay rent? That's a different question, right? So we chose the same as you, Chris, is we did send out a letter, but we didn't give them options. We didn't give them a discount. We didn't give them anything like that. We just said, hey, you still got to pay rent. Now, if they don't pay rent, now we do have a plan for that. And I would like to talk about that with you guys in a minute. But I'm curious, Mike, I know I saw Kevin shot me over your letter that you sent tenants. So I know you sent something to tenants as well, right? Is that true?
No.
What'd you do?
I did. Congratulations and kudos to Chris. 6,000 units in 7 different cities. That just makes my head hurt. But I like we've got, just as far as the number of units, we're over 500 units, and I got a excellent staff and team leaders. So here's what I did when all this stuff first started popping around, and like Chris said, around March the 20th or so, might have been a few days before that. I went, oh no, I got a plan right now. So number one is I don't want to call up or be proactive, reach out, say, hey, if you have trouble, or get a discount, because they're going, yeah, I'm having trouble. Okay. So what I did is, how could I effectively communicate to them that they have to pay the rent? Well, keep in mind, back then they were talking about, you don't have to pay rent for 2 months. Okay. The court, no foreclosures or no evictions for 2 months. And that just kept getting extended. So I'm like, holy cow. And then you see on Facebook, rent strikes.
Yep. Yes.
Remember that kind of garbage? And so we've got I would say a majority, not all, but maybe I'm going to ballpark it, 2/3 of our residents live paycheck to paycheck. And so they're going to freak out if they lose their job and all this stuff, and they can't really function too well. So what I did is I went on my website and I put something about, I want to protect my staff and employees. So we created the Wendy's walk-up window. And so nobody has to deal with the public. I'm serious. And that there's pictures of it on our website. So I created the Wendy's walk-up window. And then on there, I said something about, if you expect to have trouble paying rent, click here. And so when it goes over there, I've got it. It's not pretty. I just banged this up real fast to get it out. And it's something along the lines like this. Okay, coronavirus outbreak or whatever. Okay, you must pay rent. Okay, your rent is not waived. And there was one of the questions I put in there. I said, if you need help getting your free $1,200, the feds promised like $1,200 before the CARE Act was passed. I think I have something like that on there. And I said, if you expect that you might have trouble, well, then click this link here. And it goes to a page with 6 links. Talks about like how you can get the unemployment, headed federal, state, and local. And our local government, the idiots, okay, they basically got what's called a neighborhood department. And they got like $3.2 billion. Just go get in line and they'll give you money for stuff. And so we started getting, believe it or not, I mean, I was terrified when all this initially rolled out. And I didn't want to tell them, hey, if you need, I didn't want to send something out under everybody's nose because they would participate. Yeah, I want a discount, but I felt compelled to put something up there for those. We started getting checks from these local agencies for their rent before April 1st. I was shocked. And so then the folks who had trouble paying rent on April the 3rd, okay, that's when we normally send our late notice, pay or quit possession notice goes out. And so we looked at that, and I was shocked. I was expecting April to be a bloodbath, with 33% of tenants or renters being unemployed. It was like Chris said, it was about maybe total 8%. And so what I did is, this is something unique. We've never experienced this before. So rather than try to adapt all of our property management software and everything like that, I just created what I called a Corona a resident hot sheet. And it allows my resident manager, she was keeping notes in a notebook, and she asked me to help her create this. So I created this thing, and now just at a glance, I can see the status of everybody there. And if you remember, I said the paycheck people, those are the ones that can't function. Okay? So the paycheck people, I want you to think relationship-wise, like, remember Leave It to Beaver? And so This is how I trained Carla, my resident manager, and I gave her 2 extra helpers to be proactive, to reach out to these people when they haven't paid their rent. So you'll discover great residents who haven't paid, and they're terrified, and they can't function, and their world's all upside down. And so we reach out to them, like June and Ward Cleaver, call them by their first name a lot. Hey, Chuck, what's going on? I see this never happened before. You haven't paid your rent. So Chuck is going to say something, okay? And Chuck's going to bump his gums a whole lot. Let him throw up, okay? Because now he's getting that cancer out of his belly, and who gets credit for it? You do, okay? So now you can talk to, what our goal is to get Chuck to make the rent payment go into the A pile and get paid first. So we're going to offer him all kinds of ways to get some help. Even offer, and I know this sounds goofy, corny for Chris because his staff doesn't have the time, but sort of like be like like June and Ward Cleaver. Hey, well, what bills you got? Can you defer some of these? But you got to pay your rent, because you know what? Your landlord has got loan payments to make, and if you don't make your rent payment, they can't make the loan payment. You could lose your home.
Yep.
So ultimately, we want them to pay it all. Okay, that's our goal, and that's what we strive for. If they say, no, I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. Well, how much can you pay? That's the last resort. And when they get down to that, if they got, say, $1,000 as their rent, and they say they can pay $600, well, I'll tell you what, Chuck, let's get that $600 in here right now, and that means there's $400. At least that's gonna help you not lose your home. Let's get that $600 in now. We'll take the $400, park it on the shelf. We're not going to forget about it, okay? And when you get back up on your feet again, then we'll take how much you still owe, and we'll craft some kind of payment plan that won't crimp your lifestyle, and it'll be a win-win-win. And I was shocked. I was expecting, we prepare for the worst and hope for the best. When you're hearing stuff like 33% of the tenant renters are unemployed, and that was as of 2 days ago. Who knows what it is today? But wow, I mean, we've got some great residents, and I love them. Now, if you've got A quality stuff, that live in the gated communities and things like that, you're not going to talk to them like June and Ward Cleaver. But the paycheck people, the ones pay $22 a week to rent a toaster. Yep, turn off that toaster rent. Let's pay your rent.
Well, what I like about what you were saying, Mike, and this is what we kind of the same thing, I think probably all of us are, is like, you got to give your tenants options. Like, part of a job of a landlord, like, I think is to be there to help, like, process through the difficult situation with your tenant. I mean, like, we don't have to, but like, it's a complicated time. So like we were literally like having the website available. Here's how you apply for unemployment. Because I know tenants who just had no idea even what unemployment, how it worked or how to apply for it. All they know is they lost their job. Let's help them.
You're exactly right, Brandon. Here's another thing that goes with that level of a tenant. Okay. And they can live in nice homes too, but you want to be like, I mentioned Junior Ward Cleveland. I keep saying it all the time, but don't just expect you can make a proactive phone call and they're going to perform. Okay. Yeah. They ain't paid the rent. What makes you think they're going to be responsible after the phone call? So then I like to give them a deadline. Okay, Chuck, now when are you going to apply for this or go to that, call this agency or this, that, or whatever. Okay. Now when are you going to get that done? Okay. Now I'm going to check back with you Wednesday. Okay. You say you can have it done by Tuesday. I'll give you extra day. I'm going to check back with you Wednesday, and you do follow up with them. And what that does is that makes them subconsciously, the psychology of it, it makes them feel valued, like you care, like you're trying to help them. Okay. And that's what you want. That's how you're going to get good tenant retention. So the follow-up on that is just as important as reaching out and being proactive.
One thing I really like about your method, Brandon and I talk about this a lot when you're referring to psychology. When people are unsure what to do or they're scared, or oftentimes when they're in a position where they're not in a position of strength, right? When they're out leveraged or they don't have a whole lot of recourses, like a tenant's going to feel when they're not working, they don't have a lot of money, is they're usually looking for someone to make an enemy. They want to, like Brandon always says, someone wants to be the villain in their own story. They want someone to be a bad guy.
Did you just quote me? Out. You just quoted.
And
I just got quoted by David Greene. This is great.
We're also assuming Brandon actually came up with that quote, that he didn't hear someone else say it and then quote it.
That is my quote. Thank you.
I've indirectly plagiarized someone because of Brandon. No. What you're saying is it's actually like a police tactic. I'm sure that's where you picked up that skill, because we learn to do that kind of stuff all the time. You're going to make them do what you want them to do. They're going to pay that rent, but you don't want them to feel like that's what you're doing it. So you give them options. You tell them, hey, here's a list of places you can go to get help. Did they need to get that from you? Probably not. They probably heard about this stuff in other places. But by you offering it to them, it makes it hard to not like you. It makes it hard for them to make you the bad guy. It makes them difficult for them to say, screw that guy, I'm not paying anything. That's very wise, that you're basically, nope, you're gonna comply. You're under arrest. But I'm gonna let you feel like you have a say in how it goes down.
Well, here's what I train my staff to do that are reaching out to them. I've got a dedicated page that has 6 links for them to see the benefits. So we ask them, 1, do you have access to the internet? Well, does your cell phone? Can you go to the internet? Well, go to our website and see where it says residents, touch that. Now here's a list and the links are in there. All they got to do is click on it to get started. The phone numbers are there, everything. And we encourage them, instead of, most folks are expecting their landlord to call them up and beat them up. Where's the rent? Where's the rent? That's the villain, okay, that you guys are talking about. But instead, I want to offer help and make them feel like we're offering them solutions to help them in this crisis.
Well, to go to the villain example, so like I don't want to see the villain in their story, right? There's actually something called like the hero's journey. It's like writers know about this, and like they were in the writing, and a lot of sales guys talk about this. Is like there's this journey that everyone goes through, and as a business owner, like you don't want to be the hero. Like you can't be the hero. The customer is the hero. This is just like sales stuff. Who's the guy that wrote that book? There's a really good one about it.
Donald Miller.
Yeah. So
story brand.
Yeah. So. Yeah, story brand, so good. But he makes it like you don't want to be the hero, but he's like you don't want to be the villain. You want to be the guide, right? And that's what we're doing by helping our tenant. Like, I mean, besides the fact that like this is a bit, a sales thing or whatever, we legitimately are the guide. Like the landlord should be the guide. They should not be the hero or the villain. Our job is to both help our owners if we're managing for other people to make sure it's profitable. But we do that by making sure our tenants stay for long term and they can pay their rent. And so it's a kind of we are the guide in between everybody, and so we're making this thing happen. I'm curious if I could bring in Dave into you in this part. Like, what did you see? Was it better than expected? And did you preempt anything with your tenants, or did you just rely on waiting for them to call you?
Being smaller and mainly working with college students, I did actually reach out. When students move in, I kind of have with them what I call the dad talk. Have fun. Don't destroy the house, pay the rent, and enjoy your time.
The dad talk, I love that.
And so,
that's exactly what that is.
It is. And so I got 3 kids, so it's a dad talk. Yep. So I actually send out texts, and actually I'm on the board of one of our local investors groups, Property Investors Network here in Toledo. And so we had this discussion at our March board meeting. as everything was going on, it's like, okay, us smaller people, what do we do? And so we kind of all agreed that we were just going to text works great, obviously, for the younger generations and things like that. So all I did was all of my I have 5 groups of students and 3 just normal residents in our houses. And I just sent out a text saying, hey guys, how are you doing? Are you okay in this craziness? And that's all I did. And so I got a lot of text back. Yeah, we're doing good. Hey, thanks for checking in on us. I mean, there was a lot of gratitude from our residents and especially the students too. I mean, they went from a normal spring semester to all of a sudden now all their classes are online. They're not seeing anybody. And some of them are essentially trapped in these houses in Toledo. Like, I know a bunch of my students live up in Northeast Ohio, 2.5 hours away. And so it's not like they can just pop back home. So that went really far, I feel. And so once again, being small enough, I can do that. And then here in Toledo too, I sent up a follow-up text a couple weeks later, just checking in again. It's like, hey, how are we doing? How are we doing with paying rent this month? So I didn't just come out of the gate like, yeah, where's the rent? Yep. But the second one was like, hey, if you're gonna have any problems, please let me know. And so when I move people in, once again, that's one of the biggest things I go over is this communication. Please don't stick your head in the sand. I'm here to help you. I'm not big money pocket bags investor. I'm like you. But here in Toledo, they also have, if you dial 211, it goes straight to the United Way. And so through the United Way, there's all kinds of, once again, how to file for unemployment, assistance with utilities, all that kind of stuff. And for one house, I did do that. I told them, about 211, and then, I don't know if they did anything with it, but yeah. So I was more upfront with the communication, but once again, I'm smaller. I don't have 6,000 units to manage, so I can do that, and it worked out really well.
Are any of you guys utilizing some of the programs that Mike gave to the clients as far as Paycheck Protection Program or any of the other government loans?
When you say utilizing, what do you mean, Dave?
Have you applied for any of them? Have you seen any money show up?
Yeah, like all the SBA stuff and the Paycheck Protection, just like all the stuff that government's now come out with to help business owners. As business owners, are you guys getting that at all?
So as a business owner, we absolutely applied for that, but haven't.
Yeah,
we don't have anything. I mean, that was. I know that's probably a very normal thing that most business owners are saying right now. We've done the application, but the banks don't know what's going on. Nobody really knows what's going on. We haven't heard anything back yet. So
we applied for the Paycheck Protection thing, which is like 2.5 months of payroll. So we got like $75,000 approved on paper, like in an email. It said it's been approved, and that's all I haven't seen no money.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So I've got a piece of paper saying that I'm approved for a $75,000. And then of course it's like some people are saying it's forgivable, but then it's not actually in the paperwork. So we don't really know if it is or not. The whole thing is just like, who would expect the government to be clear? I don't know.
Yeah. I got something to add to that. When this all first got started, I was attending so many webinars and educational things and all this. And then only to discover that one webinar says, well, they changed this 2 days ago. Now they don't have as many steps. And I'm like, my gosh, pull my hair out. So I don't want to be an expert on that, but my wife is doing all that for me. But I will say this, apply for that stuff if you can help it. One of them that I thought was really weird was the economic disaster. Remember that one? EIDL or something like that?
Yeah,
that used to be complicated. Then it got simple. And they said, go ahead and apply for it. And if your application is pending, or even if you get denied, apply again, and we'll send you $10,000 a forgivable loan. So that was bizarre. And I heard this on a webinar that I think is super sharp. I'd like to share with everybody on the call. If you do get any kind of this CARE Act or any kind of Corona money or loans or what have you that has a specific purpose, read the fine print in it. And this is beautiful. Let's say that Brandon said you got in email money for the PPL or PPP. Well, do this. To protect yourself, open up a brand new bank account and put that money in a brand new bank account used exclusively for the things involved with that. And don't put it in your operating account. And that way you got a bank account that supports that you complied with everything that is required.
We had heard that if you thought it was difficult to get the application done for the PPP, then wait till you apply to have it converted to a grant. So we had, one of our, a friend of ours in the lending world told us the same thing. Mike said that was a big, I guess, a big opportunity to protect yourself and make it easier on yourself in the back end is to have a separate account just for that particular money. Should you get approved, should you actually receive it, so that you can run everything through it and have a nice, easy, good looking paper trail for it.
Yeah, that's smart.
You talk about opportunity on here, Brandon. One thing that a lot of folks are just sort of kind of ignoring because Times Square is empty and Vegas Strip is black and all this. But, the feds, we haven't heard too much about this lately, but the feds just lowered the rate. They say almost 0%. I believe there's going to be all kinds of opportunities in the near future whenever this starts to wrap up and the economy gets going again. So stockpile cash and take a look, ask whoever you do business banking with, credit unions included, see if they have adjusted their investor loan products and see what the interest rates are. I mean, if you could get 2.5% fixed for 30 years, would you borrow $1 million?
I think so.
I would.
I'd borrow a lot more than that.
That's what, I'm not trying to freak anybody out, but take a good look. We're all at home. You can't go anywhere really. So take a look at your rentals, your portfolio, and this includes Dave, you as well. And try to touch base with the loan officer that you deal with at those different banks or whatever you're talking about and see if they have an investor loan product that's been adjusted to the newer rate. And here's how I know that they're going to do it is because have you seen that? What is it? New Day USA, the veteran loan company?
Yeah.
Remember that? They make home loans for veterans.
Yeah.
About 2 or 3 days ago, I saw a commercial on TV where they said that refinance your home. This is the lowest rate ever. Not in recent years, not in this decade, ever. So they're taking action on that, and hopefully some of that trickles down to us.
The other side of the grants and loans was the forbearance and the deferment. And I know, Dave, you have a little bit of experience with that. Do you mind jumping in and kind of sharing what you've been doing as well as what you've been recommending when it comes to loan forbearance or payment deference?
Sure. So the one out of my 8 houses, I did have, basically when I bought the house in January, I knew the tenants were barely scraping by at that point. And so once this all hit, it wasn't a surprise that they're the first ones that came forward and said, yeah, there's no way we can make the rent. So I have that house and then another house. These 2 houses are in a new LLC of mine that the lease is up in April. And because we can't show said house, we have no one to live in that house after April here. So with those 2 I have with they're commercial loans with a small local commercial bank. So I emailed Shannon, my loan guy, and said, hey, here's what's going on. Can we get some kind of deferment for the 3 months, with this CARES Act and stuff like that? He's like, yeah, sure. Let me get that paperwork going for you. Okay, great. And I've actually talked to him since, and he says, yeah, everything looks like it's approved. Now, with the deferment, there's still interest being accrued, but, for the 3 months, there's no payments. But what will happen is I have a 10-year balloon payment. So they'll just wrap those 3 months into the end of the balloon. And so that's going to help me a lot because these 2 houses are not going to have money coming in. In fact, I'm going to put some money in them to get them spruced up a lot. Now, my other houses, I have 4 other houses that are rentals that are in, my personal name for the loan, 30-year fixed. So I called up that mortgage company and asked the same thing. It's like, hey, with COVID-19 here, I'm a little concerned about these next couple months. Is there any way we can do a loan deferment so that way I stay out of trouble? And their answer was, well, no, but we can do a forbearance. And so now the legal definition of a forbearance is it's just an agreement with the banks saying that if you do this, we won't foreclose on you. And so with what this bank was willing to do is they were willing to have me not make payments for 3 months, but then all 4 payments would come due at the same time that 4th month.
That's exactly what I got from my bank.
Yeah. And so that I don't see how that helps a whole lot of people. So I said thanks, no thanks on that one. But yeah, and I'm sure a lot of newer investors like myself, I mean, the easiest way to get going in investing, if you have a decent, well-paying job is to get a 30-year fixed loan in your own name. I mean, especially now, like Mike said, with these rates being ridiculous, I wish banks would loan to me that way still. But yeah, so I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in a similar boat where they're just starting out. They have 2, 3, 4 houses. They have loans on them. So I would say, call your bank and, ask for a deferment first and just be upfront and just know what you're asking for. And yeah, I mean, give it a shot. Why not? I mean, can't hurt to ask.
To clarify that, a deferment would be putting the payments at the end of the loan. The forbearance is having a temporary break in the payments, and then they're all going to be due at once. Is that what you're saying, Dave?
That's what this bank did. Now, other banks might make some other kind of arrangement, and that's just, the forbearance is just basically an arrangement with the bank.
Yes.
For me, with my deferment, it would be at the end of the loan because it's a 10-year balloon. But if you had like a 30-year fixed out, I don't know if they would just, reconfigure the payments. I know the interest part of the payment will be higher, so that might change your actual monthly due. But yeah, that's what I was told.
Okay. I'll let you jump in 1 second, Mike. I just want to make the point. It's very important that you listen to what Dave's saying, and when you call your bank or you talk to whoever, that you don't use verbiage that means something to you that means something completely different to the person you're talking to, right? That you go ask for forbearance, but what you really wanted was a deferment, and they grant you what you asked for, and then you find out 4 months later or 3 months later, you have to make all 4 payments, right? Like I see this problem often, especially as a real estate agent who's helping to sell houses. When we talk to clients or you're talking to a lender and you say, oh, this is an investment property. And in your head, what that meant was, I'm buying it because I want it to be worth more money later. It's a good investment. What the lender heard was, oh, you're buying this to rent out. You have to put 25% down. That stuff can happen very easily. So specify in plain terms what you're looking for. Don't just throw around these fancy terms trying to look smart, because you could get yourself in hot water. Did you want to jump in now, Mike?
Yeah, I had a couple of things to add, and I work with investors frequently, but here's a question I'd like for you to try on your lenders there, Dave, the ones that are being nasty with you. Say, well, what if I just made interest-only payments? If I made interest-only payments, could I do that for 3 months and then kick back in? And then, of course, the balance wouldn't drop, but we've had some success with that working with investors. And then the other thing I can't emphasize as much as what David just said. If you hear the word forbearance, okay, if they use that word, that'll be a red flag. Dig into it more, find out exactly what they're talking about. And then they'll talk about if you defer payments and then they use the word forbearance, well, then that means the unpaid payments got to be tacked on to when the next payment is due too. You're going to have a big payment to make there. And then the other word to look for or listen for is, if you hear the word modification, hit the pause button, because what they'll do is they'll combine the forbearance and they'll talk about, yeah, we can do a loan modification, which basically means you've got to reapply for a brand new loan and they're going to up the interest rate. It's creating a brand new loan. So if you hear modification, that's sort of kind of like a slick way to not tell you you're getting a new loan.
Yeah, so just be really careful about what we're like. Get really good details from these lenders on what it is. Like David said, everyone's got their own little definitions here of what things mean. And so make sure you guys aren't applying for something you shouldn't be applying for.
If you don't understand it 100% and you're not clear, get with somebody who does understand it and find out exactly what it is. Because, never mind, I'll shut up.
Hey, Chris, I want to jump into you real quick and ask because all of us are dealing with this, but you on a much grander scale with so many units. Repairs and maintenance. How are you dealing with problems when they come up right now? And have you noticed a huge slowdown in people calling, or because they're all at home now, there's a huge uptick in people calling? And then how are you dealing with it?
So we're talking 3 weeks in. We have not seen a noticeable uptick in calls. We're focusing heavily on quality of life. You've got a major plumbing leak. If you've got a AC unit that's gone out or a furnace that's gone out, and depending on what the weather's like, we are making sure that we're addressing issues that are quality of life first. If they are minor, we're asking the resident to address those themselves and show us what they've done in that scenario. It's not just about rental collection and have they paid rent and where are we at in that cycle, but it's also, and I think it's probably where you're going, is it's the COVID-19. It's they don't want people in their houses, or vendors don't want to go into a house because they don't know. There's a lot of questions about what we can and what we can't do. So we instituted a policy with our residents of quality of life issues will be addressed immediately, and the way that we've always addressed them. And then, there's a scale of the severity of the problem, and is it going to damage the home itself, such as a slow leak. You may say, well, that's not a quality of life issue, but it's going to lead to major damage to the home. So there's we've kind of something that Mike had said earlier, and I just want to say this just briefly. What we've had to do over the last 3 weeks is retrain our team with there's a new set of rules for operating right now. And so, with us, we've got a rather large team. There's probably a ton of landlords that are managing their own properties, and some that are small management companies that are listening to this this is very disruptive, not just in the how are you going to do business, but how are you going to do business? How do you go about your day? So we had to create brand new scripts. We had to train on, train the team, go through role play so that they'd be prepared for the questions and the responses and the way they're going to handle scenarios that come up. And so with like repairs and maintenance, this is a big thing. With a large company like us, part of the way we've always done business is that rents, there was this cash flow cycle. And so oftentimes an owner wouldn't have to send in money to cover certain, low cost repairs or up to a certain dollar point. But now that you don't know what's going to happen with rents, and you don't want to apply someone else's rent payment to repair on a different house, if that makes sense, because of the cash flow. So now that's a whole nother change and adjustment where now owners have to pay for repairs in advance to ensure that their particular bill is paid by their money and not by someone else's. I mean, when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars moving, and what we quickly recognized was if there's a hiccup in that and 60% of the rents are collected, which was this big fear that everybody had, was would we only collect 60% of the rents, and you did work on someone's house that no rent was collected on, you literally just use someone else's money to pay that.
So basically your company would collect all the rents from all the properties, hold them in a maybe this is probably not the right word, but like a fund or a account. And before they were paid out to all the owners and you kept your portion, some of that money could be made to pay for repairs, which was then reimbursed later. But now you're saying if all that money doesn't keep coming in and you're putting money out to make repairs that aren't for the specific property of the money that came in, that person might not get their cash.
Well, you're having a way that money flows through a company. And so you don't have 6,000 different accounts for everybody, but you account for it in your software. So, where money's all going. But if, those bills never stop, the repairs never stop, and rents are not supposed to ever stop. So the money's always, there's no issue with it matching up until all of a sudden one day, no rent comes in. Yeah. And then you have this list of bills here that needs to be paid. And so what we had to institute was all owners. It's something we'd never, ever had to do before. You have to pay for repairs in advance to make sure that your resident's properly taken care of, and that there's, you don't have funds that move the wrong way, if that makes sense. And so, there's just this whole new way of having to do business today. And that was a great question there, Brandon, because it's not just does a vendor want to go into a home and do work, but it's, man, what work needs to be done? How is it paid for? How do you tell a resident that this is something that they need to take care of and they need to send you pictures, and because it's not a quality of life issue and maybe they get reimbursed? I mean, it's created a whole new dynamic to how things operate.
And that's how every business is dealing with right now. They're all trying to figure out, can I keep employees on staff? How many can I keep on staff? Who can I keep on staff? Who can work from home? How long can I keep them off? It's tricky.
Yeah. And that was the thing I would say that we're still most concerned about right now, is that even if you feel like you've got control of things right now, and the data I gave you earlier, we feel good that we've got control of what's happening right now. We have no idea what's going to happen in May. We have no idea is it going to change, and we're going to make more adjustments. So
Mike, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I've got so much on this repairs and maintenance. Okay. Number one, remember the TP scare?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So when that happened, we were proactive. And my resident manager fired out a text, an email, and a voicemail blast to every resident that the only thing that goes in your toilet is toilet paper.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Okay. And if we catch something else, or if our plumber pulls something else out, then you're going to have to pay for that. So, and we train all of our service techs to take pictures of front of the house, back of the house, he took pictures of paper towel, a roll of paper towels sitting on the sink next to the toilet. Guess what he pulls out? Paper towels or baby wipes or whatever it is and all that. When they pull that stuff out, they take a picture of it and they're getting paid. So once she did that, boom, we don't have any more. So they're listening on that one there. And another great opportunity, I like what Chris was talking about. You got to make some adjustments. And quality of life is very important. But one thing I want to point out is how much before this coronavirus hit, what was one of the most number one complaints or questions that investors and landlords had? How to find good contractors, how to find good help. Nobody wants to work. Well, guess what? We just hired 2 guys that over 20 years experience, HVAC, where the HVAC company laid them off. So now's a great time. I mean, it's a little bit frightening, okay, because you're thinking, well, cash flow, what have you, but you can get some good quality help right now. The responsible people are hungry. They want to work. And take advantage of that.
I'm getting my whole deck stained right now because I'm getting my whole deck stained on my house right now because the guy's out of work. So I'm like, all right, well, I need to hold. Yeah.
The number of calls I had about business has dropped a lot, but they're all about, hey, are you thinking about changing industries? Do you want to get into real estate sales? I need a loan officer for this new company. Do you know any good loan officers? You got to think like that because every single time that there's a change in standard operating procedure, something gets harder, but something else gets easier. Right? Like opportunities don't just disappear. They just move. They go to a different place. In fact, I was having this thought the other day that like we get a recession every 7 to 10 years. People hear that all the time, but we never really talk about why. Like, why do we have to get a recession every 7 to 10 years? And one of the reasons I think it happens is that we do things a certain way. Technology will catch up so that you, like the .com industry, everybody needed a website. If you could write code to make a website, you were just a god, right? Everyone needed you. We paid a bunch of money. Then software improved to the point that it wasn't hard to make a website anymore, and they didn't need to pay people a lot of money. All those jobs went away. Boom, there's a recession. And you stay in a recession until those people go learn new skills. They get in a different industry. They become useful again. Now they start making money, and then the economy goes up. It's a healthy thing to have these ups and downs. But my point would be, you need to understand that when real estate investing is not different than any of these other jobs in an economy. Things change. It's okay for things to change. There's going to be things that shift around. And what you're talking about is like a really good example of that. The people who recognize, the opportunity is somewhere else and make the move faster are the ones that tend to do better.
I got one more that nobody's never heard of yet. Okay. I'll bet you. Okay. They're talking about all this, the CARE Act and all this kind of relief money and this and that. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute. I know Chris has this and I know Brandon has this. I'm not sure if Dave Poeppelmeier, did I say that right? Okay, good. I hit a home run. All right, or Dave Greene. But I've got a business insurance policy. So I'm a broker as well, and I don't do listings. I'm not interested in that. But I have to be a broker to have my own in-house property management company that might want to manage properties for others for a fee. So some of the risk I have is, all right, I asked my insurance agent before I hired him, all right, if I send somebody over to a house that I don't own, and they fall and trip and get injured, does my insurance cover that? He said, I don't know. I said, so go find out. So he does. So I've got this big business policy for my C Corp, for my property management company. And I asked him, I said, Ferenc is his name. He's from Hungary. I said, I got business insurance, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, what about loss of income or business loss? And just about 3 or 4 days ago, I heard Trump talking about that. He says, I got insurance for that. And I don't remember what part he was talking about. So I called up my insurance agent. Don't send them an email. Don't call their office and talk to some CSR person that's their helper, because they'll bang it in your account. And that inquiry will kill your insurance code, just like a driving record. Talk to your insurance agent and ask them. He says, you know what, Mike? He says, you're not the only one that's asked that. And our leaders, our wizards in the sky at corporate, they're going over that right now and see what they can put together. So I think it's a brand spanking new one, and they're not going to offer it to people. It's going to be up to us to be, proactive, reach out there and ask them about that. And he seems to think we're going to get something for it.
Yeah, I never even thought about the lack of income insurance, or what do you call it?
Trust
disruption
probably a business loss or loss of income, or I don't know, but I think everybody here knows what we're talking about. So ask them and see if you've got a business policy that you might have a line in there that says something like that. They really don't want to, point out to you.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because if I had hail damage, I've never had an insurance agent call me up and say, "Hey, how many you got, Mike?"
Yeah, that's true. You got to be proactive about it. I like that. That's good. That's a good tip. Hey, Dave, what about you in terms of repairs, maintenance, anything that you're seeing right now in your business?
No, I mean, not a whole lot of change. I mean, once again, with 8 houses, we get the small stuff once in a while. Yeah. But I still, once again, just from a customer service, keeping my tenants happy. And once again, it's kind of like comfort food right now. When you call up your landlord, your owner, and say, "Hey, this step's almost ready to break." Yeah, we'll get there tomorrow. Yeah. And I am very fortunate. In fact, I have, speaking of staying the deck, I have my trusted HVAC guys at my house right now, because I'm getting exhaust revented, because I'm putting a bathroom in my garage, because I'm living in my garage right now as a physical therapist. And so, so it's just, we have great HVAC guys. We found some great plumbing guys. So we're really getting our core team kind of set up. And so once again, I have the ability, being small enough, to really still do all the little stuff and not have it kill me. So that's nice.
That makes sense. Last week, my tenant, we'll call him my tenant, Ryan Murdoch. You guys know about who I'm talking about, who's listening to the show right now. Ryan lives in Hawaii here. He runs my mobile home park business. And Ryan actually is sort of my tenant. He lives in like the extra house, the mother-in-law house, or whatever you want to call it, my property. Anyway, so he comes down and he's like, "Dude, it rained last night and I got a hole in my roof." We knew it was there for a while, but it got real bad. He's like, it was just pouring in. He's like, "I got to get this thing we got to get it taken care of today." I was like, "All right." And I'm thinking, who do I call for that? And I'm like, you know what would be more fun? Me and Ryan on a roof. So we literally, in flip-flops, went on his roof up on the second story, and we completely whatever you call it, shingled a good chunk of his roof. And you know what? I didn't have to do that, and there's no lesson in there other than it made me feel like a man. That was it. I was just like,
other than everyone needs to recognize Brandon is manly and
that's
handy.
What it was. It was like,
better than you are.
I can handle this. So sometimes here's my lesson I'm gonna pull out of that. Sometimes it's okay to do your own work, David, because it makes you feel like a man. I felt like William Wallace. That's what it was. And then I watched Braveheart that night.
If that's what you need to make you feel like a man, then I support it, man. Like whatever it takes. Testosterone replacement therapy, roof replacement therapy.
Today we do
Chris Clothier showed up in a pink shirt today to let us all know that he's a man, right? That's kind of a common theme of what's going on here.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Now I'm going to put a roof on later, but I am wearing pink now, so.
I think putting a roof on in pink is the ultimate boss move.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
100%.
Well, we all know Chris is a man. He runs like, super long races. So you're more of a man than me, Chris. It's good. All right, guys. I want to move to opportunity. We mentioned opportunity. We mentioned the shift. So I want to know, what do you guys think for the future? Where is this headed? What kind of both challenges and opportunities are we going to see? And obviously, none of us know. This is pure speculation. We don't know if this is ending next week or next month or 18 months from now.
But you will be quoted exactly for what you say and ostracized if it's not perfectly correct.
Yep. And if you offend somebody, John Oliver will be doing a segment on you. So what do you expect the future to look like here going forward? What's changing about our industry? Whoever wants to jump in first, feel free.
Well, which industry are you talking about? You talking about the management?
Just real estate. It's just real estate in general, we'll say. Real estate investing in general. So whether it's from the management side or, flippers, wholesalers, rentals, real estate investors in general.
I'll keep it really short in that none of us knows, as you said, what is going to change about our particular industry. But I do believe that just like every other real estate cycle in the past, it'll all be local, and you will see dips. You'll see some markets that won't have any disruption at all. But what will remain the same, I'll use the word intelligent, and I'll use it loosely. The intelligent investor who is willing to be patient and diligent in the way they're going to invest, and they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, they will have no problem. This will not be a disruption for them. They will continue on doing what they've always done. There's opportunity to invest today. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there months from now, but it's going to go to the people that are, as I just said, in my opinion, that are patient, and diligent with what they're doing there, and they have a purpose behind their investing. I guess the other thing that remains true is that those that aren't will make some bad decisions, and some will lose money and some will lose investments. And, I think that what's funny about real estate is that it always, whether it's changing, it always remains the same.
Yeah.
Those that are smart with their decision making and do it purposefully will be okay. And those that don't may not. That's probably not the answer you were looking for as far as the exacts, but good. That answer won't get me in trouble though, David Greene. You can't quote me on that one later. I was spot on no matter what happens.
You've got a career in politics, Chris. I was thinking that as you were talking, and I'm like, look at this artful dodger just making his way, using so many words yet saying nothing at the same time.
I've got a lot of practice.
Mesmerizing.
I got some opportunities.
All right. What do you got?
Here's what I see. Okay. So right now we're in the midst of something we've never seen before. And we've had an economic meltdown for the most part. And so what's going to happen whenever we start to come out of this, as much as everybody wants to, they're not going to be able to flip a switch and we go back to the way it was the day all this started. So we're going to have a lot of folks going to have a lot of problems. So I do encourage you to find resources to cash, stockpile cash, do some cash out refis, because here's where the opportunity, I think, for a lot of investors, especially those who want to grow their business. Think about, for how many years have the interest rates for homeowners been super low? My daughter is at 2.9% something fixed for 30.
Wow.
Okay. If they hit the wall and their business just evaporates and disappears, that they can't make a payment of any kind. So if you've got some cash, you can step in and jump the loan and buy that property and hopefully put them in another one of yours. If you're going to jump a loan and take over payments on somebody's loan there, don't let them stay in the house, because I did that one time and that was a big mistake. Just imagine, because I was trying to be nice, be helpful, and they stopped paying their rent, and I go to evict them, and the judge, they show up with an attorney, says, how can you evict my client when they still got a loan on the property? So that was ugly. So if you're going to jump a loan, take over payments, make them move, they can't stay there. And if you got cash, there's just going to be a boatload of those coming down the pike. And that's a future opportunity that I see that's going to be a no-brainer.
All right. What do you think, Dave?
Well, kind of being, hyper specific, being around the University of Toledo and student housing, I guess my fortunes are tied to, do my students go back to school next fall? If you can do school online, I guess our biggest concern is, do the students that we have signed leases for next year, do they actually show up and move in? So, but honestly, I think one thing that we saw in the 2007, 8, 9 recession was everything collapsed. So what do parents tell your kids? Go to school so you can get a good job. So hopefully, the enrollment stays up, and then once again, just our non-student tenants, same things as you guys, I'm hoping that they, keep jobs, they can keep payments, hopefully their mom or dad can help out. But yeah, once again, I'm trying to keep plowing forwards. We're still looking for things that are coming on the market. And so, yeah, I wasn't around for the 2007-8, fiasco / opportunity. And so if this is going to be another one of those, it's one of those where, yeah, it's a little scary, especially, being a newer investor, and, I still have a job and everything. But yeah, I just want to keep my eyes open, and once again, we have kind of a mission, being from the university, from Toledo, things like that. And Toledo's just a great place to invest. This is a great town, and like I said, my residents have been great through all of this. No one's, been saying, "Oh, I'm going on rent strike" or anything like that. People have been really cool through all this, so that's helped a lot.
Yeah, that's cool.
You've kind of been in the epicenter of this whole thing. Do you want to share your opinion on how you think, like, the whole crazy COVID real estate scare? To be fair, we all look to you for strength, certainty, and hope in these uncertain times.
I'm sure.
And so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on how you think real estate's going to change.
Wow, you're funny. I actually was just going to ask you the same question. I wasn't going to be as condescending about
I saw
it, but
it
I was
coming out of your mouth. But
well, first of all, okay. So here's the question I was going to pose to you guys, and I will pose it to you. I'm just curious, like vote. We'll vote here. Do you think this whole thing is going to, because we've said it before, that companies who have always required their office workers to work in an office, all of a sudden now are being forced to do it at home. So are they going to go, oh my gosh, we can work from home. Why am I paying office rent? And that's going to just decimate office buildings across the country. Or is going to be the opposite. Everyone's like, I'm so tired of being at home. I'm never working at home. I'm going back to work with my friends because they're all at work. I'm tired of my kids right now. Right? So I'm wondering, the same thing for kids in school, right? So Dave, with you, are people going to be like, oh my gosh, I can do school from home. Why did I ever go to college? Or is it going to be like, I miss my friends. I'm going, like, why would I ever do home college? So what do you guys think? Which way is the economy moving? And then I'll offer my thoughts.
Well, I think from the university point, no one wants to do classes online.
Okay.
I've been doing a couple things at houses here and there before all the lockdowns hit, and I was taught, and a group of guys are there in chemistry. It's like, how do you do your lab online? I mean, you can't, and so I think for the university kids, they do not want to do things online at all.
What do you think, Mike and Chris? We'll go Mike first. Are people gonna shift away from offices and schools, or is this all just gonna blow over?
Well, I'm going to steal a phrase from Chris. He talked about the intelligent investor, the intelligent business owner. I think, with Zoom meetings, their stock is just blown through the roof. But I think the intelligent business owner, investor are going to now see how they can work from home, work for my business. And I think those folks are definitely going to implement that, especially if there's some way for them to, use a Zoom meeting or something to make sure that they're not piddle farting around or outside, shooting a neighbor's dog or something. But I think other folks are going to say, no, I got to have people in my office. So I don't know which way that's going to go. It's an excellent question. And it's pretty, I have no idea. I've got folks that work from home, and they live one in Missouri and one in Georgia. And they've always worked from home.
What do you think, Chris?
I think you're going to see the start of that transition to more working from home, more mobile, officing, or whatever you want to call it, the outside of the traditional office space. My dad is still our CEO, and he is very old school, and he will never go to work from home. This is killing him right now. But he's super old school. I mean, that's his way. He wants to see people. He wants to interact with everybody that works for us, our team. Part of it is to hold them accountable. And part of it is because that's just the way he was brought up. That's the way he's been in business for however many years now. He's been working for 50 something years. He's like, that's just him. I mean, he said it to us again. He's like, we will never be totally work remote. I think that you're going to start seeing some of the younger generation, younger business owners that are coming up in this environment that are going to say, hey, if this can work, why would we take on that expense? And it's not just rent, but it's everything. It's the utilities, it's the insurance, it's every little piece that comes onto it. If I can just take a little piece of that with a Zoom account or whatever other, Slack and Salesforce and every other, different way of monitoring what my team does, I think you're going to start to see the slow transition of more and more people working remotely.
An analogy. Watch out, David Greene. There's an analogy coming. All right. So my dad is retired, but he still goes back to work occasionally, up until the last couple of weeks, to work at his old job. They hire him back because he just wants extra money and he's got some time to kill. So I asked my dad, I'm like, numerous times, why don't you just go drive for Uber? Or go drive for Uber. Like, you'll make more money than you're making at your job, and it's way more fun. Like, you'd probably actually enjoy, because my dad's a talker. He loves talking. And you'd meet all these cool people, you drive around, make work when you want work, and he's like, I don't understand that technology thing, I don't know how to use the Uber, whatever. But if suddenly he was forced to go and drive Uber for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he would realize, oh my gosh, Uber is so much better than what I was doing, and he would be an Uber driver. I guarantee it. In fact, I might even, next time he comes out here for like a month next winter, just like set him up and take him out and show him how to become an Uber driver, because I think he would just love it. So it would require something to be forced upon him for him to be able to do that. I think that's what this is going to cause, is a lot of forced action that's going to change behavior long term. Things like shopping on, I think Amazon was already a powerhouse. I think Amazon is going to become 10 times the powerhouse that it already was. I think what's the guy who runs that thing? The billionaire? Why can't I think of his name? Bezos. Yeah, right. That guy, like, I think $100 billion net worth is nothing compared to what his net worth will be in 5 years from now. So I think things like that are going to force those office buildings I do think are going to struggle. Like, not all of them. It's not like 100% are going to close, but I think if you saw a 10 or 15, 20% drop in the next couple of years in the offices, I think that's entirely possible.
Right.
I think that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think nursing homes are in trouble. I would not send my parents to a nursing home right now because I would worry about future viruses and how quick they spread throughout them. I think that, but like David, you said, there's shifting opportunities. It's not like they're not going anywhere. So I think there's opportunity for more like the mother-in-law houses, like what Hawaii does and California does a lot is the extra unit. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. I think those like box houses, that like come in on a trailer and they like set them up and like a day later they got a house. Yeah, those things. I think there's a huge opportunity.
Dumpster.
a dumpster that unfolds into a house. I think there's some crazy cool stuff out there. I think there's opportunity there. I think that's it. So David, what do you think? I'm gonna ask you though, Greene, what do you think? People look to you for hope and for
there it is.
Trust, and they want to know what you think, David, because
they just come to me when the line to talk to you is too long, and they're like, I'm like the other, like In-N-Out looks too long. I'm just gonna go to Carl's Jr. So that's what I have. I'm actually, what's funny you said is I have a listing coming to the market like in a week or so here. And with it is coming an RV that it's in working order. It comes with the house and he's renting out the RV for $1,000 a month. So there's the house, there's a studio that they rent for like $1,500 or $2,000 a month. And then an RV that also is $1,000. So it's going to be like 10 minutes from Facebook, really close. And whoever buys it's going to spend like $1,500 a month to live there, which out here, they would be spending $5,000 or $6,000. That's what your mortgage would be. So yeah, I do agree with you. Like I'm looking actively for more ways to keep housing costs low. What I think that the coronavirus is going to do is it's going to signal the beginning of the end of the I get paid by the hour structure that we have right now with business in general. I think everybody here that's a business owner, I see Chris nodding his head. He knows where I'm going with this, knows that plan, I guess, of paying people that way was developed from like a factory where you stood on an assembly line and you stood there and you put things together. And so they knew you were working. Otherwise your assembly line would get stacked up, and it's continued. But now you can have an employee that goes in the office and does 3 things the entire day. And you don't often see it because they get paid by the hour. And it brings this mindset that because I'm here, I deserve to get paid. And if I have to work when I'm here, well, I'm doing extra. But from a business owner perspective, all we care is I have a task that needs to get done. I would happily pay somebody per task, and they could make more per hour than paying somebody per hour and trying to have to manage and supervise and make sure they're doing the thing that they need. So especially with a business like mine, that's a pretty good size, but it's not so big that I need a full-time accountant and a full-time web person and a full-time like a lead source. Like the leads come in and they determine who's going to get this lead or how are we going to follow up with it. I don't need, like, there's not enough for one person to do one job. But if I hire one person to do all those jobs, now I got to just watch them all day long to make sure that they're doing something. There's plenty of opportunity to work from home if you're productive. If you're good at what you do, if you're so good, they can't ignore you, and you can convince a company, because all the company cares about is that project gets completed. That thing that they need done gets done. They don't need to pay you per hour. And what I'm getting at is the only reason they make you come into the office is to make sure you're working. Right? That's why be there if you don't have to be there. You could be at home. It's because so many people won't work if they're at home. So if we move away from the pay per hour and we get into the pay per project, well, then it's on you. You could be at Starbucks. You could be at your house. You could be at the beach. You could be in the office. You could do whatever the heck you want as long as you're getting it done. So I don't think this is going to happen right away, but I think that this is starting us down that path to breaking that reliance on the dollar per hour pay structure and getting into a dollar per task.
I like that. I just took a lot of notes there. David Greene, you're. I'm gonna use a lot of what you just said in my future arguments for having to get moving away from this hourly stuff, because you're right. It's just nuts. And I've said what you just said, and it's interesting because right now this is going to force many companies to institute a policy of I'm not paying you to show up. Mm-hmm. Like and I love what you said about people take the hourly income is what they're getting paid to show up, and work's going to cost you extra. Yeah. I mean, if you want me to do something, I want you to pay me more. I thought you just told me to pay me to walk through the door. And that's, right. It's so interesting. It's so interesting that you just said that, because that's an argument I've been making in the last couple of weeks, that there's just like this, there needs to be a fundamental shift in the way that businesses, especially, big ones like mine that have, a team of over 100 people, just how they operate. Like it's and to Brandon's point, this new work from home environment, is that going to change? Is that going to change, the way people are paid for performance rather than paying just to, hold a desk in an office?
I think Jeff Bezos has already implemented that and verifies what David's thinking here, because didn't they take a lot of their drivers, their employees, and set them up, gave them $10,000 in a van, and turned them into independent contractors, and they get paid by the piece or by their results, and that's huge.
Yeah, 100% agreed. I think that's where the world's moving. I think that also, one final note is, I think more and more people, at least I hope that they're going to start thinking this way. I hope more and more people start realizing I cannot I can't live paycheck to paycheck forever. I can't rely on this job forever. Because even people who thought they had a super secure job, even I work at a restaurant. People always need to eat. All of a sudden don't have that. And so my hope is that this becomes a wake up. I think that, books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad are going to come in really handy right now. I think a lot of people are going to read that and go, oh, now I understand why this is important, why financial freedom is important. So if anything, I think our industry is going to, from a education standpoint, is going to see an explosion in the future. Same with any online business, people learning to code, people learning to be consultants, all that stuff. I think people will be like, oh, because if you hear what a lot of the really smart people are saying, is this COVID thing going on right now isn't the end. This is an increasing problem with SARS and H1N1. And now what happens when the next thing doesn't have a 2% kill rate? It's got a 12% kill rate or a 30% kill rate, right? That stuff is likely in our lifetime. I think that the fear before was terrorism was going to kill us all. And now I think the fear is, hugging your neighbor is going to kill us all. And so I think, yeah.
Maybe it's just the handshake that goes away. The only thing that changes in 2020 is nobody shakes hands anymore.
Nobody shakes hands, yeah. We just got to bring the Hawaiian shaka for everything. Hawaiians figured it out years ago. We're just hey, man, what's up, brada?
Save lives with the shaka.
Yeah, save lives with the shaka. There you go. All right, guys. Well, we got to get out of here in a little bit. So I want to ask one more question from each of you. I'm curious, and then we'll kind of do some wrap up where people can get to know you more and reach out. But first, I'm just curious, if you had to speak directly to a landlord right now, think of our average user right now. Our average listener, out of the 250,000 some people who listen to the show, is probably, youngish, I would say between 25 and 45. They have a few rental properties, maybe 5, 10 rental properties that they manage themselves, or maybe they have a property manager, but they're fairly, I don't call it hands-on, but they're at least involved, right? That's our most likely person who's listening. What do you say to them right now? Whether it's advice, warning, encouragement, whatever. What would you guys say to those people listening right now who are just newer landlords, or just the average American under 10 ownership landlord? Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you straight up that I wrote this in a forum on the BiggerPockets forums a few days ago, that it's not too late to plan. Many people that I spoke with directly froze. Just as we were talking about as Mike was mentioning, the resident that freezes when they're scared or don't know what to do. We saw a lot of business owners. I spoke to a lot of small management companies. I spoke to a lot of individual landlords that did not know what to do. They also didn't have a good group of mentors around them. They didn't have anybody to bounce ideas off of. And as I mentioned, we're in there having these heated debates on what to do. So we had all these different ideas flying around. So it was easy to make a decision. Whereas somebody else, when all those ideas are flying around their head, they don't, a lot froze. So my biggest thing is, it's not too late. You have to prepare for what's coming next. You have to prepare for, and I said it, that there could be 10 different plans you have. You've got, the worst case scenario to the best case scenario and everything in between. And if a resident does this, then I'm going to do this. And if they react this way, I need to do that. I mean, you have time, but you have to spend time preparing. I've been telling people these last few weeks that I'm actually very optimistic. I'm very encouraged, and I have a lot of confidence in, what's going to happen next, especially when it comes to our company. And I told them that the reason why is because we've spent so much time preparing that we're not going to be surprised. No matter what happens, we will not be surprised in May or in June. Sales go up, sales go down, rents go up, rents go down. Whatever happens with the maintenance, calls go through the roof, calls stop. It doesn't matter. No matter what comes our way, we prepared for it, and we've, prepared our team for it. So for if you're a landlord, if you're a small business owner, if you're, no matter what it is, and you may be stuck in this idea of what's going to happen next. Well, you don't know the answer to that, and neither do we. No one does. But what you can do is control how you react, and you prepare yourself, kind of through stoicism, by accepting that the worst case scenario can occur. And if it does, how do you react? And if you have already prepared for that on the front end, it makes it easier anyway to take action and function each day. If you haven't prepared and haven't thought about it, I mean, it's almost like the lack of preparing just starts snowballing. So my big thing to everybody was, it's even whatever today's date is. Today's the 13th. It's not too late. Start today. Start tonight. It's okay. You're breathing. You're still alive and kicking. So go to work preparing for how you are going to be prepared. That's my best advice, I guess.
Can I expand real quick on what you said there? Just offer some commentary. So a couple of weeks ago, back when I put out the first video on BiggerPockets a few weeks ago that went, I don't know, called viral, but it has a couple 100,000 views now. And it was basically, here's my 5-point plan. That was my wife and I sitting down for 20 minutes looking at each other going, okay, what are we going to do if? And us just going through it. And honestly, we didn't know the answer. Like I might act confident with this. Like, I'm going to regret saying this, but like, I'm just as I have no idea what's coming, right? But just having a plan made both of us feel so much better. And then now hundreds of thousands of other people feel better because I had a plan, like who have watched this video now. Because it's more important to have a plan than to have the perfect plan, right? Just okay, now I feel like I'm good. If we have to adjust the plan later, great. At least we had something we can adjust. But if you're just out there, oh, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so I love that you said that, Chris.
All right, my turn. I got some things. It's awesome stuff there, Chris, and same with you, Brandon. And I know you're getting ready to wrap it up. I've had a blast on here. You guys are awesome and sharp, and everybody listening to all these guys here. This is what it takes, okay? But a couple of things I just jotted down, and I would say make education. I want you to budget education just like you do insurance or property taxes or anything else. I'm still learning every day, and I have education in my budget for what I want to learn more about. And I'm sure each of you guys do that too. So make that part of your budget. And then goals. Okay, you got to listen to BiggerPockets like you're doing right now, and that's a very important part of your education. And this stuff works. And I'm going to just change a little bit differently with what Chris said. I mean, he hit a bullseye. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And so I have a staff. I know Chris has a staff, and you guys, Dave's probably on his own, but I have a meeting every week with my staff at 12 noon on Mondays to review what happened last week. And so everybody's on the same page as we move forward of not only what's coming up this week, but coming up in the future. And I would say this one, I like this: avoid bad advice, especially from poor people. So, and I know everyone's going to agree with me, but how many times has somebody said, well, my uncle who said he had a rental house, he told me blah, 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 blah. Well, is that really who you want to look at? The noise, look at that head that noise is coming out of. Do you admire that? Is that what you want to be when you grow up? No. Okay. And Brandon said this, basically, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Okay. And if you combine all of those things, and I got a book you want you to read if you haven't, Who Moved My Cheese? That's what we're at right now. A little 10-minute book. You can read it real fast. That thing is awesome. And it'll help give you some insight about what's going on right now in our world and everything in America. Well, in fact, the world with all this Corona stuff.
I love that you said that book, because that is exactly what's going on right now. The entire world's cheese was just moved. And that book is such a perfect analogy for what's going on. Yeah. I'm going to
and it's a fast, easy read. Okay. If you don't like reading, well, then get the audio version and play it on your phone, on your nightstand next to your bed, and you get it through osmosis.
Yeah.
That's so education, failing to plan. Goals. You got to set goals in addition to planning. In addition to planning, you got to set some goals. So you got to take a financial snapshot of where you're at now, along with your lifestyle and everything else, and then do a financial snapshot of where you want to be in 3 to 5 years. Okay. And now you got a point A and you got a point B. And now the shortest way to get from point A to point B is draw a straight line. And now you know what you got to do, and just put some mile markers on there, measure yourself, hold yourself accountable. And if you're not good at that, get somebody on here that will. I'm sure Dave or Brandon or Dave or Chris have a private, confidential accountability partner to help you achieve your goals of what you want to do. Dave Poeppelmeier. He's on the board of a real estate investor group. Join one of those. You're going to get local updates on what's going on in your town, whether it's fair housing laws, everything like that. And that affects everything in our real estate industry. So I'll shut up. I'm done. Thank you, Brandon and Dave.
That's good, man. All right, Dave, what do you got? Final advice for those listening.
Well, so once again, kind of coming out of the newer investor, once again, with 8 houses and adding more, I guess the biggest thing that I did in the early days was, like Mike said, it's just learn. I mean, you're not going to know everything. We were talking before the call started. This is a shameless plug for Mike again. I'm with Brandon. Mike's landlording system was the first major purchase I made, and at the time it was like, oh my god, I'm sliding this credit card for how much? But you know what? You need a system. And so that has helped me tremendously. It's just, it's read the books. I mean, I'm sure on BiggerPockets we have lists of, resources and suggestions. I mean, ask in the forums. It's like, hey, I just bought my first house. Now what? What should I read now? And it's all mindset. Luckily, I've had some pretty good mentors in my life and in my past too, not just in real estate, but other financial, friends, family, things like that. On the good side, I've had people say, oh my God, you're investing. Where do you? Yeah, well, so actually as a physical therapist, I've actually dropped down from a full-time PT to a part-time PT in the last 6 months so I could focus more time on my rentals.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so my wife's a realtor, and so she was doing all the day-to-day stuff with tenants and with trying to do her real estate stuff, as well as be a mom of 3 kids. And it's like, you know what? Something's got to change. And so I made the jump down to part-time. But, even though we have less, W-2 money coming in, I am loving life so much more. I mean, this is fun. And really, I mean, if this isn't kind of fun to you, if you didn't like playing Monopoly when you were a kid, then it might be a little harder. But, even through this big old hiccup here, internally, I feel all right because I know that we've learned the business the right way. We have our systems in place. My wife and I have had a conversation of, well, what if 1, 2, 3 houses stop paying? Okay, we'll still break even now, Yep. And at this point, it's okay. I'm not going to be making, millions of dollars right now, but I'm setting a foundation for a pretty decent income that I can either, pass on to my kids or just let it ride. And I'm happy with that. So just keep going. It's, it's weird right now, but if you're not going to buy something, yes, learn. Buy the books, read the articles, just feed your brain.
All right, David, let's close it up with you. What's your final advice for people listening right now?
One obvious piece has been reserves matter, right? One of the ways that I didn't mention, I think this is going to change, is there's been a lot of, I'm not sure if I want to invest in real estate, but it kind of seems cool. So I'm going to do it because it's cool. This is going to shake some of those people out because now they got a taste of the fear that the experienced people actually have to live with. It's not just cool all the time. There's actually, it can be scary too. So that's one way. And the advice that I would give to people is we talk about looking for an opportunity that has a barrier to entry. You want to get involved in things that are hard to get into. And when you're just accepting that right off the bat, you don't worry when this happens. I've never for 1 second thought, oh my God, why did I invest in real estate when this whole scare came? And throughout a lot of this, we still don't know how it's going to go. But the initial, the world is ending, the sky is falling, what is going on, has turned into a difference. And I think most of these guys said between like 8 and 11% of tenants not paying their full rent. It's not a huge, I think one of them was even at like 4% different, Chris said, between this year and last year. And there could be things that do completely shake it up and they do make it different. But overall, if you're living beneath your means, if you're smart with your money, if you're making good sound investments, if you're buying properties in good areas, if you're buying good properties, if they're cash flowing, you don't really need to worry about a whole lot. So when this happens, I just go right back to the fundamentals. Was I starting to get a little sloppy with the fundamentals that I was following? This will help me tighten it right back up again. The people who end up getting hurt are going to be the sloppy ones. And so that's the only advice that I would give is just like, this should not catch you off guard. This should not freak you out. You should not panic. If you had your emotions affected that much by what if people stop paying rent for a little while, you probably didn't understand real estate investing in the first place.
My quick advice is work out every day. It's too easy to like get at home and get no exercise in whatsoever. And you just start feeling more and more down. You start scrolling Facebook. You get a bunch of really, really just negative stuff coming all day, a bunch of fake news. And like pretty soon you just like, you're not doing anything with your life. So get up, get some blood pumping, get your workout in. And
what are you doing for workouts right now, Brandon?
I do different stuff every day. Like pretty much every day. I'm about kettlebell this morning. Ryan's trying to get me into kettlebell workouts. So I don't know. That's my thing. What about you? Lifting cows?
I climb on roofs and I change it myself and I pat myself on the back in front of as many people as I can. And I did carrying tar up and down a ladder in the hot Hawaiians.
That's what you do. That's what you do. All right. I'm glad that's what you're doing.
I like that.
All right, guys.
What I really am doing is super simple. Everybody can do it. You watch TV, and when there's a commercial, you do an exercise. You can do air squats, you can do push-ups, you can do leg raises, you can do sit-ups, like not that much. But if you just do that for like a couple hours in a row, you will have gotten a workout and it won't feel like a workout. You're not going to have to like carve out an hour of time and kill yourself. Yeah. So it keeps the blood flowing, keeps you in a good mood because it's easy to get into a bad funk when you're just sitting at home looking at the TV all day. Or go, change a roof when there's nothing on TV.
There you go. You gotta find a way to feel like a man or a woman. All right. With that, where can people connect with each one of you? Let's start with Dave Poeppelmeier. Did I say that right? Close.
Yeah.
Where do people? Okay. I get it sometimes. Where do people connect with you? Where do they learn more about you and find out about you?
I'm on BiggerPockets. My business is D3L Properties. So the email is d3lpropertiesllc@gmail.com. And so, I definitely need to start hopping on BiggerPockets more. But yeah, if you're a new person starting out and, you want someone who's still close to that point, absolutely. Give me a call or whatever, and we'll go over things. Absolutely.
Cool, man. Chris?
Yeah, you can reach me at REINation.com. That's the new web address of our company. There's a lot of information on there. You can learn about us and you can learn about me in particular, but also I try and stay pretty active on BiggerPockets. I get sidetracked, but I am still fairly active there on the site. So Chris Clothier on BiggerPockets, you can send me a message through BiggerPockets. I think I try and get back to everybody that messages me there. And then, those are probably the two simplest ways to find me. I'm pretty active in both locations. So.
And Mr. Mike Butler.
MikeButler.com and just click on the contact us and you can get a hold of me there.
Very, very cool.
REI Nation. I like that.
It's kind of catchy.
Yeah. Memphis Invest to REI Nation.
Yeah, Memphis Invest to REI Nation.
Just one last thing, just one line.
Yeah.
Always try to take your killer deals and put them into your self-directed Roth IRA for tax-free profit and income for life.
We could do a whole show.
Yeah,
we could do a whole show just on
that. Are we getting off now? What are we?
That's a nice teaser. Stay tuned next week to learn how you.
All right, guys, this has been fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us today. Really, really good stuff. I mean, I look up to all three of you guys quite a bit when it comes to this landlording thing. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. So you guys take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay safe.
This is David for Brandon, not as condescending as David Greene Turner, signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.